It begins with a whisper, the faint clink of copper echoing from a half-forgotten drawer. A single cent, ordinary, overlooked, yet hidden within that unassuming piece of metal lies a mystery so profound that it has rewritten the history of American coinage and ignited the dreams of collectors across generations. The year was 1960. The nation stood at the edge of change. Dwight D. Eisenhower was in the White House, John F. Kennedy was on the rise, and America was preparing to leave the black and white era behind. But deep inside the Denver Mint, something else remarkable was happening. A story not of politics or progress, but of precision. And imperfection, the coin in question? The Abraham Lincoln 1-cent coin struck at the Denver Mint, the 1960 small date over large date variety. A copper alloy disc barely an inch wide, yet worth, to some collectors, more than a mansion. How could something so small carry such unimaginable value? To answer that, we must travel back to a time when every die, every engraving, was a dance between human hands and machine. In 1960, the Mint faced an unusual dilemma: the date on the Lincoln 1-cent design. Early in the year, the digits 1 to 960 appeared large and full, proud and deeply cut into the master die. But as months passed, engravers altered the style, refining the numerals into smaller, more compact figures to improve striking quality. In theory, this should have been a smooth transition. But numismatic history is rarely neat. Somewhere in the heart of Denver, during that quiet switch from large date to small date, a handful of working dies, meant for one, were paired with the other. The result: a hybrid error unlike any other, the 1960 small date over large date Lincoln 1-cent coin. For decades, most people who held it never noticed the secret. They spent it at diners, dropped it into jukeboxes, or let it roll between their fingers as they bought a pack of gum. But to the trained eye, to the collector who studies the language of metal, this tiny overlap of numerals told a different story, one of rarity, chaos, and chance. The D mint mark beneath Lincoln's portrait marked its birthplace, Denver, Colorado. Yet within that mint mark hides a second layer of intrigue. The Denver Mint was known for its efficiency, high output, crisp strikes, minimal mistakes, which is why the existence of this particular die pairing stunned even the most experienced numismatists. When collectors first began discovering them in circulation during the early 1960s, whispers spread across the hobby community. Was it an overdate? A double strike? A mint worker's oversight? Each theory carried its own flavor of mystery. What united them all was the realization that something extraordinary had slipped past the quality control gates of one of America's most trusted institutions, and then came the turning point. In 2019, an exceptional specimen, graded by the professional coin grading service, PCGS, reached auction. Its surfaces gleamed with an almost satin finish, each curve of Lincoln's profile untouched by time. The overlaid numerals of the date were crisp, bold, undeniable. When the hammer fell, that single cent had commanded a staggering $857,000, nearly $1 million for what once bought a stick of gum. That sale sent shockwaves through the numismatic world. Why? Because moments like these rekindle the dream that every collector secretly holds. That somewhere, in their pocket change, their attic jar, or their grandfather's cigar box, lies a fortune disguised as a penny. But the 1960 story isn't just about luck. It's about the intersection of history, art, and economics. You see, the Lincoln 1-cent coin has always been more than metal. Since its introduction in 1909, commemorating the centennial of Abraham Lincoln's birth, it has symbolized honesty, endurance, and the promise of the American spirit. Yet over the decades, subtle variations, doubled dies, repunched mint marks, misplaced digits, have transformed these coins into a living puzzle. Each flaw whispers of human hands at work, of fatigue, haste, or innovation in the quiet hum of the minting room. Collectors don't just chase value, they chase meaning. To own a rare 1960 small date over large date is to hold a tangible moment when perfection slipped and history breathed through copper, and the numbers prove it. In a market once dominated by silver dollars and gold eagles, demand for vintage Lincoln 1-cent varieties has surged. Collectors who once dismissed the humble cent now scour rolls and estate lots with magnifying lenses and hearts pounding. Because when one coin fetches over $800,000, the line between pocket change and legacy wealth suddenly blurs. But what gives this coin its staggering value? Rarity, yes, but rarity alone doesn't guarantee riches. The numismatic market thrives on three intertwined forces: scarcity, story, and condition. Scarcity ignites desire. Only a handful of these hybrid 1960 D cents are known in mint state condition. The story adds emotional gravity, a minting mishap during a transformative era. And condition? That's where dreams are made or lost. A single scratch, a tiny spot of corrosion, can slice a coin's value in half. So collectors chase not just the coin itself, but perfection within imperfection. They seek what's called full red luster, the original copper sheen that glows with warmth, untouched by time's oxidation. It's that glow, that vibrancy, that made the record-breaking piece so irresistible. But let's pause a moment. Imagine yourself at a coin show, fluorescent lights glinting off rows of protective cases. You lean over a dealer's table and there it is, a 1960 D Lincoln 1 cent, small date. Your heart stirs. You pull out your loupe. Under magnification, the date shows a shadow beneath the numerals, faint but present. Could it be? The difference between a 1-cent curiosity and a life-changing treasure might rest in a detail smaller than a human hair. That thrill, that instant rush of discovery. That's what drives the numismatic soul. It's not about greed, it's about connection. A link between past and present, between craftsmanship and accident. Still, a question lingers. Could another 1960 D variety break the $1 million mark? Many experts believe it's only a matter of time. Market data shows that high-grade error coins, especially those with strong provenance and sharp detail, continue to outperform traditional investments. While stocks fluctuate and currencies devalue, tangible rarities, from early U.S. gold to mid-century mint errors, maintain their allure. They are finite, historical, and above all, personal. But here's the twist, and the part that keeps collectors awake at night. Not all examples have been found. Mint records from 1960 indicate millions of cents struck in Denver. How many carried this rare date configuration? No one truly knows. Some estimates suggest fewer than 50 survive in gem condition. Others whisper of undiscovered rolls sitting untouched in private hoards, waiting for rediscovery. Imagine being the one to find it, an heirloom jar in an old family home, its copper contents forgotten for half a century. You sift through them idly, and there it is, the tiny date anomaly that could change your family's future. That's not fantasy. It's happened before. Every major auction has its story of the lucky finder, the retiree in Ohio, the young collector in Arizona, the widow cleaning her husband's coin desk. Ordinary people who stumbled upon what experts missed. That's the intoxicating beauty of coin collecting. It rewards patience, curiosity, and the courage to look closer. Of course, every story has its imitators. The fame of the 1960 D variety has spawned a wave of counterfeits, altered dates, and digital exaggerations. But trained numismatists know the truth hides in the details. The shape of the six, the alignment of the mint mark, the texture of the fields. Authenticity isn't just seen, it's felt. So what does this mean for today's collector? Opportunity and responsibility. Because each rare cent that surfaces reshapes the market, setting new benchmarks for value and inspiring fresh generations to look beyond the obvious. If you're listening to this, perhaps you already understand that thrill. Perhaps you've held a coin in your hand and felt the quiet pulse of history beneath your fingertips. Maybe you've wondered what secrets your own collection might still conceal. Here's the truth that seasoned numismatists live by. Great discoveries rarely announce themselves. They hide in plain sight, under tarnish, in rolls of change, in coins too familiar to notice. And yet those who do notice, those who train their eyes to see what others overlook, become part of an unbroken lineage of treasure seekers stretching back more than a century. The 1960 D Lincoln 1 cent isn't just a coin. It's a mirror of the American spirit, born of hard work, touched by error, and elevated by persistence. Its story reminds us that greatness often begins in the smallest details, and that fortune favors not just the bold, but the observant. So the next time you handle a handful of copper coins, pause, feel their weight, study their dates, because history has a habit of disguising itself as the ordinary, and perhaps, just perhaps, the next $1 million cent is already in your possession, waiting for your discovery, your courage, your moment to see what others have missed. After all, the difference between a coin and a treasure is simply knowing its story. How can a single 1-cent coin, minted during the height of the Vietnam War and the space race, command a value greater than most people's homes? Because in the world of numismatics, where history meets mystery, even the smallest details can change everything. Imagine this. You're rolling a few old coins you've had in a jar for decades. A dull, reddish-brown cent catches the light differently. It has no mint mark beneath Lincoln's portrait. At first glance, it seems ordinary, but then, under magnification, something feels off. The edges, the strike, the color, that's when curiosity gives way to a realization that sends a chill down your spine. This could be one of the most elusive Lincoln cents ever discovered. Collectors know the thrill of that moment, the heartbeat that quickens as the line between pocket change and priceless treasure begins to blur, to understand why a 1965 no-mint mark Lincoln 1 cent might be worth a small fortune. We must step back into one of the most chaotic eras in American coinage history, a time when the mint itself was in crisis. The early 1960s saw a nationwide coin shortage. Vending machines jammed, banks rationed change, and the public began hoarding silver coins, fearing that rising silver prices would soon outpace their face value. The U.S. Mint, desperate to restore circulation, took drastic action. In 1965, officials halted the production of silver dimes, quarters, and half dollars, replacing them with copper nickel-clad versions. But that wasn't the only change. To prevent collectors from pulling too many new coins out of circulation, the mint did something unprecedented. It removed mint marks entirely from all coins struck between 1965 and 1967. No D for Denver, no S for San Francisco, no P for Philadelphia, though historically Philadelphia cents rarely bore one anyway. Every coin was deliberately anonymous, its origin hidden. This decision created an era of mystery, one where every 1965 coin looked the same, regardless of where it was made. But as the years passed, collectors began to notice small variations, subtle deviations in strike quality, metal composition, and die alignment. And that's where legends like the $1 million 1965 cent were born. You see, the 1965 Lincoln 1 cent was supposed to be made entirely of copper, 95% copper, to be exact, with a small blend of tin and zinc. But in the confusion of that transitional year, something extraordinary might have happened. There are stories and authenticated examples of coins struck on the wrong planchets during that period. A few 1965 dated coins have been found accidentally struck on older 90% silver dime or quarter blanks, or even foreign coin stock. Each one is a time capsule of human error inside a machine-run empire. Could one of those mistakes have reached the Lincoln cent presses? Could a 1965 cent have been struck on a leftover bronze planchet from an earlier minting run, or perhaps more intriguingly, on a copper-zinc blank meant for a different denomination altogether? Such anomalies, when verified by grading authorities like PCGS or NGC, can catapult a coin's value from face value to financial legend. The record-breaking no mint mark 1965 Lincoln cent, rumored to have sold privately for around $848,000, is believed to exhibit precisely such an anomaly, a combination of metallurgical deviation and pristine preservation. But rarity alone doesn't create obsession. Emotion does. Collectors aren't merely buying metal, they're buying meaning. They're purchasing a physical piece of American history that survived the chaos of the 1960s untouched, unspent, and unblemished. Think about it. 1965 was the year of civil rights marches, the Beatles' Shea Stadium concert, the first U.S. troops in Vietnam. Every coin struck that year circulated through a country in transition. Yet this one, this flawless, mysterious cent, somehow escaped circulation entirely. Perhaps it was pocketed by a mint worker who sensed something special. Perhaps it sat quietly in a tobacco tin for decades, passed down through a family who never realized what they had. Until one day, under a jeweler's light, its secret revealed itself. Now, before we go deeper into the million-dollar question, what exactly makes this coin worth nearly $850,000, let's dispel a myth. Not every 1965. Lincoln 1 cent without a mint mark is valuable. In fact, most are worth just 1 cent. There are millions of them still in circulation, oxidizing quietly in piggy banks and glove compartments across the country. The value comes from 3 intertwined factors: composition, condition, and provenance. Composition. If the coin's metal deviates from the standard alloy or was struck on an incorrect plancher, it instantly becomes a rarity. Condition. Coins graded as mint state 67 or higher, especially with original red luster, are breathtakingly scarce. And provenance. If a coin has a traceable history through major auctions or comes from a recognized discovery hoard, collectors will pay exponentially more. Combine all 3, and you have the formula for a numismatic phenomenon, the kind of coin that transforms a collector's story into legend. There's also something deeper at play: collector psychology. For many enthusiasts, the 1965 no-mint-mark Lincoln cent represents the hunt. It's the symbol of hidden potential in the ordinary. You could search through 10,000 coins and find nothing, but the possibility that the next handful might change your life keeps you looking. It's the same thrill that drives treasure hunters, historians, and investors alike. The knowledge that somewhere among billions of coins, a tiny imperfection could mean everything. That's why this particular coin captures the imagination. It's not just its market value, though an $848,000 price tag certainly raises eyebrows. It's what it represents: the idea that greatness can hide in plain sight. So, what does one actually look for when examining a 1965 Lincoln 1 cent? Start with the strike quality. Exceptional sharpness in Lincoln's hair detail and the lettering of Liberty often indicates an early dye state, those struck before the dyes wore down. The surfaces should gleam with original red luster, untouched by circulation. Then, examine the weight. A standard 1965 cent should weigh about 3.11 grams. Anything significantly lighter or heavier could suggest an off-metal strike, a red flag for potential rarity. Finally, look for the sheen and color tone. Coins struck on foreign planchers often exhibit unusual hues, a silvery tint, a muted red, or an odd reflective quality under certain light angles. Of course, only a professional grading service can authenticate and certify such details. But even seasoned collectors admit finding one worth grading is a moment of pure adrenaline. Here's something few outside the numismatic world understand. The coin market behaves like a living organism, constantly shifting with emotion, scarcity, and global economics. When the stock market wobbles, rare coins become safe havens. When gold spikes, collectors turn toward historic copper, more stable, more personal. The Lincoln cent series, in particular, has an emotional hold over Americans that's unlike any other. It's the first coin many of us handled as children, a symbol of savings, effort, and quiet patriotism. That's why when one of these familiar coins suddenly becomes a 6-figure artifact, it doesn't just shock, it inspires. It reminds us that legacy isn't built overnight. It's minted, one decision, one discovery, one spark of curiosity at a time. Now, imagine what would happen if another 1965 no-mint-mark Lincoln 1 cent like the $848,000 specimen surfaced today. Auction houses would erupt with bids. Social media would buzz with speculation. And in living rooms across America, countless collectors would empty their jars, sifting through decades of change, eyes scanning for that elusive glow. Could one be hiding in your possession right now? It's a tempting thought, one that fuels both imagination and hope. Even if you never find the $1,000,000 cent, understanding. Its story teaches something profound about collecting itself. Coins aren't just metal. They're witnesses. Each one tells a story of craftsmanship, error, politics, and timing. They reflect who we were and who we aspired to be as a nation. The 1965 Lincoln 1 cent without a mint mark is a reminder that in moments of national uncertainty, even our money carried a sense of mystery. The mint's choice to remove mint in 1971, America stood at the crossroads of tradition and transformation. The Vietnam War raged overseas. Apollo astronauts looked back at Earth from the silent edge of space. And here at home, millions of ordinary citizens went about their lives, spending change, buying groceries, tipping cab drivers, never realizing that among their everyday coins, a silent fortune was slipping through their fingers, because hidden within the copper-red shimmer of a simple Abraham Lincoln 1 cent coin was a mystery worth more than a mansion. Imagine it. A 1 cent coin, no mint mark, no silver, no gold, nothing exotic, yet today, collectors whisper of a single specimen commanding as much as $842,000. How could something so small, so ordinary, become so extraordinary? Let's peel back the decades, layer by layer, and uncover the strange and powerful story of the 1971 no mint mark Lincoln 1 cent coin. A coin that challenges everything we think we know about value, rarity, and the pursuit of American legacy. At first glance, the 1971 Abraham Lincoln 1 cent coin looks utterly unremarkable. Just over 19 millimeters in diameter, struck from an alloy of 95% copper and 5% tin and zinc. The obverse bears the steadfast profile of Lincoln, the same humble portrait sculpted by Victor David Brenner since 1909, and on the reverse, the marble majesty of the Lincoln Memorial. Tens of millions of these coins were minted that year, so why would one be worth a fortune? To answer that, we have to understand a strange numismatic truth. Not all coins are created equal. Every year, the U.S. Mint produces billions of circulating coins, but only a fraction leave the presses with perfect precision. In the world of collectors, a single microscopic flaw, a subtle variation, or an unexpected absence, even the absence of a tiny mint mark, can transform a coin from pocket change into a priceless artifact. And that's exactly what happened in 1971. During that year, 3 U.S. mints struck Lincoln 1 cent coins: Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. Normally, coins from Denver and San Francisco bear a small D or S below the date, but Philadelphia had no mint mark. So why would the lack of a mint mark matter? Because in 1971, something unusual happened, something that still confounds collectors to this day. Certain proof coins, which should have been struck only at the San Francisco Mint and marked with an S, were accidentally released without that identifying letter. A single oversight by a mint engraver, or a momentary lapse during die preparation, created a handful of 1971 S-proof Lincoln cents, with no mint mark at all. Proof coins are supposed to be flawless, made for collectors, not circulation, and struck multiple times with specially polished dies to achieve a mirror-like finish. The disappearance of the mint mark from such a proof coin is an event so rare, so improbable that even seasoned numismatists doubted its existence for years. But then, one surfaced. When the first 1971 no S proof Lincoln 1 cent was discovered, disbelief rippled across the collecting community. How could the mint, a fortress of precision, allow such an error? Investigations revealed that one of the master dies used for proof coinage had simply never been punched with the S. Thousands of proof coins were struck before anyone noticed. The mistake was corrected, but by then roughly 1,500 to 2,000 of these error coins had already left the mint. The rest is numismatic legend. For decades, collectors hunted these coins like buried treasure. They were hiding in proof sets, those clear plastic cases sold by the mint to hobbyists and investors, waiting for someone with sharp eyes and steady hands to notice what was missing. And as the years passed, the legend grew. Today, pristine specimens graded by the Professional Coin Grading Service, PCGS, or Numismatic Guarantee Company, NGC, can command prices that defy logic. Tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, even upwards of $842,000 in private sales. Why such astronomical values? Because collecting is not just about metal, it's about meaning. To hold a 1971 no-mint mark Lincoln 1 cent. Proof is to hold a piece of American imperfection, a moment where human error slipped through the gears of government precision and gave birth to something rare, unrepeatable, and profoundly symbolic. It's the same reason a misprinted stamp can be worth a fortune, or why a first edition of a novel with one misplaced comma can outshine a flawless reprint. Perfection is predictable, but mistakes, especially those that endure, carry mystery, personality, and story. Collectors aren't just buying coins. They're buying narratives. They're buying the thrill of the hunt, the validation of discovery, and the dream of owning something no one else has. And in the case of the 1971 No S proof, that dream is very much alive. Let's step back for a moment. In the early 1970s, the mint faced growing pressure to modernize. Inflation was climbing. Metal costs were shifting. Coin production was accelerating to meet the needs of a booming, cash-driven economy. Amid all that chaos, small human oversights were inevitable. But here's the irony. What the mint considered a mistake became, for collectors, a miracle. Each missing mint mark told a story of transition from craftsmanship to automation, from careful engraving to machine precision. The 1971 No S Lincoln cent was a relic of that turning point, a coin caught between two eras of American production, and that duality, imperfection born from progress, is what makes it irresistible to collectors today. Of course, every legend attracts imitators. As the fame of the 1971 No S proof spread, so did counterfeits. Some unscrupulous sellers began polishing ordinary Philadelphia minted coins to mirror-like finishes, trying to pass them off as proofs. Others tampered with mint marks, filing or acid-etching the S away in hopes of deceiving the inexperienced. But true collectors know authenticity lives in the details. A genuine 1971 No S proof Lincoln 1 cent coin exhibits deep, mirror-like fields and sharply frosted devices, traits impossible to fake with a polishing wheel. The edge is smooth, the strike razor-sharp, and under magnification, its surfaces reveal the telltale beauty of proof craftsmanship. Those who own one of these genuine coins often describe an almost spiritual feeling, as if holding a relic that shouldn't exist, yet somehow does. The market for such rarities has only intensified. In the past decade, as alternative investments and tangible assets surged in popularity, rare coins re-emerged as symbols of both heritage and financial acumen. Unlike stocks or crypto, a coin cannot crash overnight or vanish into data. It can be held, admired, passed down. It tells a story, and that story compounds in value over time. Collectors in their 50s and 60s, those who grew up during the era of copper cents and paper savings bonds, now look back with nostalgia. They remember sifting through jars of change, unaware that one overlooked coin could hold a small fortune. You can almost hear the collective sigh. What if I had looked closer? That's the magnetic power of the 1971 No Mint Mark Lincoln. 1 cent, it makes every pocket full of pennies a potential gold mine. But there's something deeper at play here. This coin reminds us that value is perception, that wealth isn't always loud or obvious. Sometimes it hides in silence, in a faint absence of a letter, in a design unchanged for generations, in the humility of a single cent. Abraham Lincoln himself once said, "I will prepare, and someday my chance will come." For coin collectors, that preparation is patience. It's curiosity. It's the willingness to look a little closer at what others overlook, and when that chance comes, when a collector spots the faint telling absence of a mint mark, the reward isn't just financial. It's emotional. It's the validation of vigilance. A coin like this turns the ordinary into the extraordinary. It transforms a symbol of everyday commerce into a portal of history, connecting the hands of a 1970s mint engraver to the fingertips of a modern collector. Half a century later, every 1971 No S proof carries within it the echo of American craftsmanship, human fallibility, and the timeless allure of discovery. It whispers a message to those who listen closely. Sometimes, the smallest things hold the greatest worth, so the next time you pick up an old Lincoln 1-cent coin, don't dismiss it as mere copper. Tilt it under the light. Let the shadows trace the date. Look beneath the 1971. Is there an S? Or is there nothing at all? Because that absence, that tiny, almost invisible omission, could be your connection to one of the most elusive treasures in modern American coinage, a simple cent born from error, now worth more than $842,000, and growing in both rarity and reverence each passing year. It's not just a coin. It's a reminder that opportunity doesn't always announce itself. Sometimes it hides quietly in the palm of your hand, and if you're wise enough to see it, your legacy could begin with just 1 cent. They say the smallest things can hold the greatest secrets, and in the world of American coinage, that couldn't be more true. Because somewhere, perhaps sitting quietly in a jar of old change, lies a simple copper-colored disc, an Abraham Lincoln 1-cent coin from 1973, struck without a mint mark. A coin so ordinary that most people would never give it a second glance. Yet this humble cent, under the right circumstances, could be worth more than $834,000. How could that be possible? What makes a single 1-cent coin command the value of a luxury home, or even a lifetime of savings? The answer takes us deep into the heart of American minting history, where precision, rarity, and human error converge to create modern legends in metal. In 1973, America stood on the edge of change. The Vietnam War was winding down, gasoline prices were beginning to climb, and the nation's economy was shifting. One coin, one decision at a time. At the United States Mint, tucked inside the industrial hum of Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco facilities, billions of Abraham Lincoln 1-cent coins rolled off the presses. Each was supposed to carry a small mark, a silent signature indicating where it was born. Coins from Denver bore the proud D. Those from San Francisco carried the S. But the Philadelphia Mint, the oldest and most storied of them all, had a different tradition. It often struck its coins without any mint mark at all. So, when you hold a 1973 Abraham Lincoln 1-cent coin with no mint mark, you're looking at a product of the Philadelphia Mint, a coin born in the very cradle of American money. At first glance, this doesn't seem rare at all. Philadelphia minted hundreds of millions that year. So why the extraordinary value? The secret lies in the details, in microscopic imperfections, hidden minting anomalies, and the powerful forces of collector psychology. You see, not all coins are created equal. Among the countless Abraham Lincoln 1-cent coins produced in 1973, a select few were struck with unusual die variations, small errors, double strikes, or minute design distortions that transformed an ordinary piece of metal into a numismatic masterpiece. Some examples show a double die obverse, where Lincoln's portrait or the inscriptions, "In God we trust and liberty," appear slightly duplicated. Others exhibit unusual luster or sharpness, evidence that they were among the earliest struck from freshly prepared dies. When these rare variations are discovered, often decades later, sometimes in an old cigar box or inherited coin jar, collectors and investors take notice. Because rarity, combined with flawless condition, can multiply a coin's worth 1,000-fold. Imagine it. A coin meant for a child's piggy bank suddenly commanding 6 or even 7 figures in a major auction. This isn't fantasy. It's a pattern that's repeated across history. Think of the 1943 copper Lincoln 1-cent coin, mistakenly struck when the mint switched to steel during World War II. One of those sold for over $1.7 million. Or the 1955 double die, whose dramatic misprint turned a common coin into one of the most famous errors in American history. Collectors don't just chase metal. They chase meaning. They chase stories. The tales that connect everyday America to moments of mystery and chance. That's what the 1973 no mint mark coin represents. A reminder that the ordinary can become extraordinary in the right light. But there's another twist. Most people don't realize that condition, the precise state of a coin's surface, is everything. Professional grading services like PCGS and NGC rank coins on a 70-point scale, from worn, good examples to flawless, mint state or proof conditions. A 1973 Philadelphia minted Abraham Lincoln. 1-cent coin in circulated condition might fetch only a few cents. But a coin in perfect mint state, 67 or higher, untouched, brilliant, and struck with immaculate detail, could explode in value. When such a coin appears at auction, the bidding frenzy begins. Seasoned investors know that ultra-high-grade coins from common years can suddenly become trophies, simply because they are the best of their kind. In one remarkable case, a top-graded 1973 no-mint-mark Lincoln 1-cent coin achieved a hammer price of $834,000, shocking even veteran dealers. It wasn't just metal that changed hands that day. It was prestige, history, and the eternal human hunger to own something truly unique. Why do collectors spend fortunes on coins smaller than a thumbprint? Because they understand what most overlook. Coins are time machines, each Abraham Lincoln. 1-cent coin carries the story of a nation, its triumphs, its mistakes, its values stamped in copper and zinc. Holding one is like holding a fragment of America's memory, and when that memory turns out to be one of a kind, untouched by time, and certified as such, it becomes a vessel of legacy. For many collectors, these coins are not simply investments. They are heirlooms, a tangible way to pass on a story, perhaps to a child or grandchild, of how something so small could carry such extraordinary worth. Now, here's where it gets fascinating. Most 1973 Abraham Lincoln 1-cent coins without mint marks were made of bronze, about 95% copper and 5% zinc. But a handful of experimental pieces and error coins were struck on planchets intended for other denominations or compositions. Some experts speculate that a few coins from this era may have been struck on transitional or foreign blanks, creating subtle color or weight differences detectable only by trained eyes or precise scales. That's why the coin collecting community remains so captivated. Somewhere there might be an unrecognized variation, still sitting unnoticed, waiting to rewrite numismatic history once again. Have you ever wondered why we're so drawn to the idea of hidden treasure? It's not just greed, it's curiosity, that electric feeling that maybe, just maybe, something priceless could be within our grasp. Coin collecting, at its core, taps into that primal instinct. It's a blend of art, science, and adventure. It rewards patience, observation, and a willingness to look closer than others do. Every coin has secrets, and the 1973 no-mint mark Lincoln 1-cent coin reminds us that even in modern times, new discoveries can still surface. Auction houses whisper about these coins in reverent tones. Dealers debate whether the next high-grade specimen could break the $1 million mark. Collectors hold their breath when they send their coins in for grading, knowing that a single half-point difference in score could mean the difference between a few $100s and a life-changing fortune. That tension, that uncertainty, is what fuels the market. And lately, that market has been surging. With inflation rising and tangible assets becoming increasingly attractive, more Americans are turning toward numismatics not just as a hobby, but as a store of value. Gold and silver draw the headlines, but rare coins, especially those tied to U.S. history, often outperform traditional investments during turbulent times, because unlike paper or pixels, a coin is real. It can be held, displayed, and passed on. Its value doesn't just depend on markets, it depends on history itself. Think about this. When the first Abraham Lincoln 1-cent coins were struck in 1909, few imagined that future generations would obsess over their mint marks, errors, and die varieties. Yet here we are, over a century later, and these coins still command passion, debate, and million-dollar headlines. That's the enduring power of numismatics. It turns everyday objects into timeless relics. So the next time you see a dull copper coin resting in a parking lot, ask yourself, could it be one of those legendary 1973 no mint mark pieces? Could a forgotten treasure be hiding right under your fingertips? If you're wondering what to look for, start with the basics: a flawless strike, sharp edges, clear lettering, and deep detail in Lincoln's hair and jacket. No visible wear, no fingerprints, no scratches. A rich, even luster that glows softly under light. And of course, no mint mark beneath the date. Just the clean, unmarked 1973. If you ever suspect you've found a potential rarity, resist the urge to clean it. Cleaning can destroy a coin's value faster than any scratch. Instead, protect it, store it carefully, and have it evaluated by a trusted grading service. Because history has shown us again and again, the greatest discoveries often begin as quiet curiosities. In the end, the story of the 1973 no mint mark Abraham Lincoln. 1-cent coin isn't just about money. It's about the American spirit. The idea that hidden greatness can exist anywhere, even in something as simple as a cent. It's about the... Have you ever held a coin so ordinary that it almost whispered nothing, until one day collectors around the world realized it was hiding a fortune? That's the paradox of the 1998 Abraham Lincoln 1-cent coin from the Philadelphia Mint. An unassuming copper-plated piece of change that could be worth not just hundreds, not just thousands, but potentially hundreds of thousands of dollars. And yet, almost every day, this coin slips through fingers, jingles in pockets, and vanishes into cash registers unnoticed. But why? What secret does this humble 1-cent coin hide, and how did a single variation send shockwaves through the numismatic world? Let's unravel that mystery. To understand the 1998 Lincoln cent's allure, we have to start with a truth that collectors know deep in their bones. The rarest treasures often wear the plainest faces. By 1998, the Lincoln cent had already seen nearly 9 decades of production. Millions rolled out of the Philadelphia and Denver mints, each bearing Abraham Lincoln's steadfast profile and the solemn Lincoln Memorial on the reverse. Most were struck, circulated, spent, and forgotten, tiny ambassadors of commerce. But hidden among the billions, a handful carried something different. Something misplaced. Somewhere between die preparation and striking, a subtle design feature slipped through the cracks. It was an artistic ghost from another era, a faint echo of the wide AM spacing used in proof coins, and that's where the legend begins. The 1998 no mint mark. Lincoln 1-cent from Philadelphia shouldn't have had that proof-style wide AM. Proof coins, as most collectors know, are struck in San Francisco with meticulous care, glossy, mirror-like fields designed for collectors, not circulation. Business strike coins, on the other hand, were given the close AM design, 2 letters of America almost touching, symbolizing the common version meant for everyday exchange. Yet somewhere in 1998, dies intended for proofs found their way into the wrong production line. The result? A handful of regular 1-cent coins with the wrong reverse design. At first glance, they looked just like the billions of others, but under the right light, the difference became undeniable. The A and M in America stood apart. A minuscule gap, worth a massive fortune. Now, here's where the story takes a turn most people don't expect. When this error first surfaced in the late 1990s, it barely stirred the market. Collectors thought it was just another oddity, perhaps worth a few dollars, maybe a curiosity for error enthusiasts. But as years passed and experts realized just how few existed, demand skyrocketed. By the time the 2010s rolled around, authenticated examples began commanding thousands at auction. And in the last few years, a perfect condition piece, graded at the highest mint state levels, sold for a jaw-dropping market value approaching $821,000, a 1-cent coin, turning into a nearly $1 million marvel. Think about that for a second. How many 1998 pennies have you held in your life? How many times did you let one roll off your palm without a second thought? That's the power of numismatics. It transforms what we overlook into what we treasure. And yet, the 1998 wide AM isn't just about value. It's about legacy. It's about the living connection between American craftsmanship and chance, between the mint's mechanical precision and human imperfection. Because make no mistake, this wasn't an intentional design change. It was a human error, immortalized in metal. Let's step back and examine why collectors obsess over details like this. To outsiders, the spacing of 2 letters might seem trivial. But for serious numismatists, these micro-variations represent the heartbeat of history. Every coin is a record of its time, its tools, its dyes, its workers, its politics. When something deviates from the norm, even by a fraction of a millimeter, it captures a moment the mint didn't intend to preserve. The 1998 wide AM cent tells the story of a die swap, likely an employee's oversight, a proof reverse die accidentally mounted on a circulation press. That mistake transformed an object worth 1 cent into an artifact worth a small fortune. It's the numismatic equivalent of finding a diamond in a handful of gravel. So how do you know if you found one? Here's where knowledge turns into power. Take any 1998 Abraham Lincoln cent without a mint mark, meaning it came from the Philadelphia Mint, and flip it over. Look closely at the word America. If the A and M nearly touch, it's the standard coin. But if you see a clear separation, a noticeable gap, you might be staring at one of the most coveted modern rarities in U.S. coinage. Collectors also look for other telltale signs. The designer's initials FG on the reverse, positioned slightly farther from the Lincoln Memorial than usual. Sharper, more proof-like details on the memorial columns and Lincoln statue within. Under magnification, these differences become dramatic. And for the trained eye, they're unmistakable. But here's the twist. Most people who ever owned this coin never knew it. It slipped through their fingers at gas stations, coffee counters, and grocery stores. Some of those very coins are probably still out there, rattling in drawers, buried in coin jars, hiding in old bank rolls. It's a modern treasure hunt, hiding in plain sight. And that, perhaps, is what fuels collectors more than anything. The hope that they will be the one to discover the next great rarity. Because in this hobby, every pocket of change is a lottery ticket written by history. You might be wondering, could it really still happen today? Absolutely. New examples continue to surface, often in the most unexpected places. One was discovered in a teenager's coin jar. Another came from a routine bank deposit. A third, astonishingly, was found in circulation as recently as 2021. These discoveries ignite a familiar emotion across the numismatic community: awe, envy, and a touch of disbelief. Why? Because every new find reminds us that luck favors the informed. The more you know about die varieties, the more likely you are to recognize one before the world does. But rarity alone doesn't explain the staggering market value. So what drives a simple cent to surpass the price of a luxury car? 3 forces intertwine here: scarcity, condition, and collector psychology. First, scarcity. Only a handful of confirmed examples exist in high mint state grades. Out of billions minted, perhaps fewer than 24 top-quality pieces remain. Second, condition. The coin's value multiplies exponentially with preservation. A circulation-worn specimen might sell for a few $100s, but a gem-uncirculated coin, untouched, gleaming, perfectly struck, can achieve life-changing sums. And finally, psychology. Collectors are emotional beings. They chase not just metal but meaning. Owning a 1998 wide AM cent is like holding lightning in your hand, a tangible intersection of accident and artistry. It's proof that perfection sometimes comes from imperfection. The story of this coin also reveals a subtle truth about the market. Numismatics isn't just a hobby, it's a mirror of human behavior. When economic uncertainty rises, rare coins surge in demand. They represent tangible value, something history-tested, immune to the volatility of digital markets. And modern varieties, like the 1998 wide AM, bridge two worlds, the nostalgia of past craftsmanship and the thrill of modern discovery. As one collector famously said, "Every coin has two sides, the one you see and the one that changes your life." Imagine, just for a moment, finding that change in your own home. You sift through an old jar of coins, the copper scent of the past filling the air. You pull out a 1998 cent, tilt it under the light, and your pulse quickens, because suddenly those tiny letters on the reverse don't look quite right. Could it be? You grab a magnifier, confirm the gap between A and M, and realize you might just be holding one of the most valuable circulation coins of the late 20th century. That's not just discovery, that's destiny. What makes stories like this so captivating is that they blur the line between luck and knowledge. Anyone can stumble across a rare coin, but only the educated collector knows what they've found. That's why communities, forums, and grading services like PCGS and NGC have become pillars of the modern coin world. They authenticate, preserve, and legitimize these discoveries, ensuring that when a 1998 wide AM cent surfaces, its value isn't just speculation, but certified history. And once a coin earns that certification, it no longer belongs to just its finder. It becomes part of American numismatic heritage, a relic that tells the story of our mint, our errors, and our endless fascination with perfection. So what can we learn from this copper miracle? That opportunity often hides in the ordinary. That patience, curiosity, and knowledge can turn a single cent into a legacy. And that somewhere, right now, a coin just like this might be waiting for you to notice it. As collectors, we aren't just chasing value, we're preserving the fragments of America's story, one coin at a time. Because behind every misaligned die, every minting flaw, and every overlooked cent lies the possibility of rewriting your own fortune. The 1998 No Mint Mark Lincoln. 1-cent coin is more than an error. It's a reminder that even in mass production, miracles happen. And maybe, just maybe, the next miracle is already in your pocket.